entire journey, and what they see is not the strong, independent person they convinced themselves they were, but rather a terrified soul who sacrificed something irreplaceable on the altar of ego and self-protection. The mirror of their own absence has shown them exactly what they lost when they let you go, and the reflection is so unbearable that staying away has become more torturous than the risk of reaching out, more devastating than whatever rejection might await them if they dare to speak the truth they have been suffocating beneath layers of false composure. This breaking point is not a moment of weakness, but rather the first genuine strength they have shown in this entire dynamic, because it takes more courage to shatter your own defenses than it does to maintain them indefinitely against the tide of your own heart's knowing. They are preparing to do something that terrifies them more than silence ever did, and the transformation happening within them is the necessary destruction that precedes all authentic rebirth. They are working up courage for something big, something that exists far beyond the realm of casual text messages or strategic social media gestures designed to test the waters without risking their ego in the process. What they are preparing is not a breadcrumb, but a full offering, not a vague feeler, but a declaration that will require them to stand completely exposed in the truth of everything they have been hiding, denying, and running from since this connection first ignited something in them they were not ready to hold. You must understand that this action they are gathering strength to take is so out of character for the version of themselves they have shown you, so radically different from the self-protective patterns they have demonstrated until now, that when it arrives, it will serve as undeniable proof that something fundamental has shifted in the bedrock of who they are and what they are willing to risk for what they know in their soul is real. This is not about them sliding back into your life with strategic ambiguity or calculated distance that keeps one foot always positioned near the exit. This is about them showing up in a way that burns every bridge back to the safety of detachment, that commits them fully to the vulnerability of being seen in their need, their regret, their longing, their absolute knowing that walking away from you was the greatest mistake they have made in a journey filled with choices they wish they could unmake. They are rehearsing words in their mind that they have never spoken aloud, words that terrify them because once released they cannot be taken back or disguised as anything other than what they are. A complete surrender of the pretense that they were ever fine without you, ever whole in your absence, ever anything but haunted by the ghost of what they destroyed when they chose pride over presence. Carl Jung understood that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. They are finally allowing themselves to acknowledge that they were transformed by you, that the reaction between your souls created something they cannot replicate or replace with anyone else. And this acknowledgement is what is driving them toward action that will make no sense to anyone observing from outside this connection, but will make perfect sense to you when you feel the energetic signature of truth vibrating beneath their words. An action that will require them to be completely vulnerable, completely honest, completely willing to face whatever response you give them from the sovereign throne of your own healed power and clarity. There is always a catalyst, always a specific moment when the foundations of denial crack open and let reality flood in with such force that maintaining the comfortable lies becomes impossible even for the most committed practitioner of self-deception. For this person, that moment arrived recently in a form that shattered their carefully constructed narrative about being fine, being over it, being able to move forward as though you were just another chapter they could close and file away in the archive of their romantic history. They saw you moving on, or at least appearing to move on, and the terror that seized them was so visceral, so primal, so utterly consuming that it bypassed every intellectual defense and landed directly in the part of them that knows beyond knowing that losing you permanently is not something they can survive with any semblance of their soul intact. Or perhaps it was not your movement forward, but rather their own descent downward that created this breaking point, their own journey into the dark night of the soul where they were forced to confront the wasteland they created when they chose safety over sacred connection. They hit rock bottom and discovered at the bottom not the relief they expected, but only the echoing emptiness of a life instructed around avoiding the very vulnerability that makes living worthwhile. In that darkness, they finally surrendered to the truth they have been fighting since the beginning, that you are not replaceable, not forgettable, not someone they can simply move on from as though this connection was ordinary or superficial or anything less than the sole recognition it has always been beneath all their attempts to diminish it into something manageable. This catalyst moment, whether it came from witnessing your freedom or experiencing their own devastation, cracked open something in them that cannot be sealed back shut. The timing is divine not because the universe follows your preferred schedule, but because consciousness requires perfect conditions for breakthrough, and those conditions have finally aligned in a way that makes their continued resistance more painful than their fear of vulnerability. They are being pushed by forces they cannot name toward action they cannot avoid, and the momentum is carrying them directly toward the moment when they will have to risk everything they have been protecting to reclaim what they know they lost. Jung spoke of the shadow as the part of ourselves we reject, deny, and project onto others, because we cannot bear to acknowledge it within our own psyche. And this person has been engaged in an unconscious wrestling match with their shadow that could not be avoided or bypassed if genuine transformation was to occur. They had to face their demons before facing you, had to meet the parts of themselves they found most unacceptable, most shameful, most unlovable, and recognize that these rejected fragments were precisely what drove them away from love when love first offered itself without conditions or demands. You cannot meet love with an unhealed heart, cannot show up in sacred connection while carrying unexamined wounds that dictate your every move from the hidden chambers of your unconscious programming. And they are discovering in real time what it means to integrate what was split, to own what was denied, to embrace what was feared. This shadow work is not pretty or linear or something that happens on a convenient timeline that respects your patience or their pride. It is brutal and disorienting and strips away every comfortable identity they used to shield themselves from their own pain, their own longing, their own terror of being seen in their totality and rejected for the truth of who they are. They have had to sit with their patterns of abandonment, their tendencies toward emotional unavailability, their addiction to control and their fear of surrender, and in sitting with these aspects of self they previously disowned, they have begun the alchemical process of transforming lead into gold, shadow into light, fragmentation into wholeness. The person preparing to reach out to you now is not the same person who walked away, because they have died to who they were and are being born into who they are capable of becoming when they stop running from their own depth. Subscribe to witness this journey unfold, because what you are being invited to observe is not just a relationship reconciliation, but a soul's metamorphosis from defended to open, from fragmented to integrated, from fear-driven to love-led. This is the initiation that had to happen in the hidden realm before anything real could manifest in the visible one, and it is nearly complete. It might arrive as a letter written in their own hand, words carefully chosen and rewritten a dozen times, because they know they will only get one chance to communicate what they have finally found the courage to acknowledge. It might come as a call at an unexpected hour, when their resolve is high and their defenses are low, their voice carrying the unmistakable tremor of someone standing on the edge of everything they fear, and choosing to jump anyway into the terrifying unknown of complete honesty. It might manifest as them showing up in person at a place they know you will be, their physical presence serving as the ultimate statement that they are willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be vulnerable, willing to risk public humiliation and private rejection if that is what speaking their truth requires of them in this moment. Whatever form it takes, you will recognize it immediately by the energetic signature that accompanies genuine vulnerability rather than strategic manipulation. These will be words they have never said to you before, words that cost them something to speak because they reveal needs they were taught to hide, feelings they were conditioned to suppress, desires they learned early to deny in order to maintain an appearance of self-sufficiency and emotional independence. You will hear in their communication not the casual testing of waters, but the absolute immersion into depths they previously refused to acknowledge existed. And the difference will be so clear, so palpable, so undeniable that any confusion you felt about their intentions will evaporate in the presence of this unambiguous declaration. An apology that does not deflect or minimize, but takes full ownership of the pain their choices created. A confession that does not hide behind vagueness, but names specifically what they feel, what they want, what they are finally willing to admit they cannot live without. A plea that does not demand or pressure, but simply lays bare the truth of their internal landscape and leaves the power of response completely in your hands. This is what is coming toward you now, carried on the current of their transformation and delivered at the exact moment when divine timing intersects with human readiness. And nothing about it will be small or safe or designed to protect them from the consequences of being fully seen in their need for you. Understand that what they are preparing to do is not a breadcrumb casually tossed in your direction to see if you are still interested, still available, still willing to settle for the scraps of their attention when it is convenient for them to offer it. This is the whole loaf, the entire harvest, every resource they have been hoarding in the storehouse of their defended heart, now being brought out and laid at your feet with the knowledge that you have every right to reject it, to walk away from it, to tell them that their offering has come too late and you have already planted new seeds in soil they will never touch. The risk they are taking is absolute because it involves the total dismantling of their protective apparatus, the complete surrender of the control they have wielded to keep themselves safe from the very intimacy they are now seeking with an urgency that borders on desperation, born not of neediness, but of clarity about what actually matters in a life well lived. They know they might lose everything, and they are doing it anyway because remaining in the prison of their own fear has become more unbearable than the possibility of your rejection. They are risking their pride, that fragile ego structure that convinced them for so long that being vulnerable was equivalent to being weak, that needing someone was a failure rather than the most human and holy of experiences. They are risking the comfortable narrative they constructed about why this connection did not work, the story they told themselves and others to justify their choice to walk away. And admitting they were wrong requires a level of humility that does not come naturally to someone who has spent years perfecting the art of emotional self-protection. They are risking the judgment of everyone who witnessed their departure and will now witness their return, risking being seen as inconsistent or confused or weak, when in reality what they are demonstrating is the opposite. The strength to admit error, the courage to choose love over image, the wisdom to recognize that being right is worth nothing if it costs you everything that makes being alive meaningful. This is terror and courage existing simultaneously in the same breath, the same body, the same decision to reach for what they know is real despite every logical reason to protect themselves from potential pain. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and this person is finally claiming that privilege by allowing their true self, the one that loves you, needs you, chooses you, to emerge from beneath the false self that tried so hard to convince everyone, including themselves, that they were fine in your absence. Real change speaks through consistent action, not just words carefully crafted to bypass your defenses and gain access to your energy without requiring actual transformation on their part. You will know this is genuine not because they say the right things, though their words will carry the weight of truth when they are spoken from an integrated place rather than a manipulative one, but because what follows their initial outreach demonstrates a pattern of showing up, of following through, of proving with behavior over time that the internal shifts they claim to have experienced are not temporary adjustments designed to win you back, but permanent reconfigurations of how they move through the world and how they prioritize what matters most to their soul. Watch for the energetic quality beneath their communication. Does it seek to take from you or offer to you? Does it demand immediate forgiveness or respect your need for time and space to discern whether this is safe? Does it center their comfort or honor your sovereignty to choose what serves your highest good regardless of what that choice costs them? Authentic change reveals itself through humility, through patience, through the willingness to do whatever is necessary to rebuild trust without entitlement to your automatic acceptance, just because they have finally decided to acknowledge what was always true. It shows up in their capacity to sit with your anger if you feel angry, with your uncertainty if you feel uncertain, with your boundaries if you need boundaries, without trying to rush you past your legitimate emotional responses, because their discomfort with your processing is more important than your right to feel everything you need to feel about what they put you through. Real transformation means they no longer need you to manage their emotions or protect their ego, no longer require you to make this easy for them when nothing about their absence was easy for you, no longer expect you to meet them with open arms when they have earned your caution through their previous choices to prioritize their fear over your connection. Share this if you are waiting for real, not games, because your discernment is the sacred guardian that protects your energy from those who would use spiritual language to manipulate rather than those who embody spiritual principles through their actual behavior over time. You are not obligated to accept what they offer, not required to forgive what they have done, not responsible for making their journey of transformation easier by immediately rewarding their growth with access to your heart, before you have had adequate time and evidence to determine whether this shift is sustainable or simply another temporary adjustment that will dissolve the moment they feel secure in your presence again. You are allowed to say not yet, allowed to say I need more time to see if your actions match your words, allowed to say I need space to feel into whether my soul actually wants this reunion, or whether my mind is simply romanticizing something that was never as healthy as I wanted it to be. You are allowed to say not ever, allowed to recognize that sometimes love is not enough when patterns of behavior have caused damage that cannot be repaired even with the best intentions and the most sincere apologies. Allowed to choose your own peace over their redemption arc, if that is what your inner knowing tells you honors your worth and protects your well-being most fully. But you are also allowed to forgive and try again if forgiveness feels true rather than pressured. If trying again comes from genuine desire rather than fear of being alone or worry that you will regret not giving them another chance. You are allowed to believe in their transformation if the evidence supports your belief, allowed to open your heart if opening feels expansive rather than contracting, allowed to receive what they are offering if receiving aligns with your highest path and serves your evolution rather than merely soothing your loneliness or satisfying your ego's need to be chosen after being rejected. Both responses are valid because you are the sovereign authority in your own life, the only one who can determine what is right for your journey, and no one outside your own soul gets to dictate whether choosing them or releasing them is the choice that will lead you toward your most authentic expression of who you came here to become. This moment is not about them or their needs or their timeline for resolution. This moment is about you claiming your power to decide what you will allow into your sacred space and what you will lovingly but firmly keep outside of it. This is not years away, not some distant possibility that exists only in the realm of hopeful fantasy, while you wait indefinitely for movement that may never come. This is close, so close that if you pay attention to the subtle shifts in energy around you, the synchronicities beginning to appear with increasing frequency, the way your thoughts of them have intensified recently despite your attempts to focus elsewhere, you will recognize that the momentum has already begun, and what remains is only the final closing of distance between intention and manifestation. Watch for signs in the coming days and weeks that confirm what you already feel in the knowing part of you that does not require logical proof. Repeated numbers appearing at moments when you are thinking of them, unexpected references to things that carry specific meaning in your connection, dreams that feel more like visitations than random neural processing, the sudden sense that you should be in a certain place at a certain time for reasons you cannot articulate but must follow anyway. When you see the signs, when you feel the energetic signature of divine timing aligning all the pieces that needed to align before this could unfold in the physical realm, you will know it is time to prepare yourself not by rehearsing what you will say or do, but by grounding yourself in the clarity of who you are, what you deserve, and what you will and will not accept regardless of how much you have longed for this moment. The collective unconscious that Jung understood as the shared reservoir of human experience and archetypal pattern is activating the ancient template of the lover's return, the prodigal's homecoming, the sacred reunion that happens when two souls complete the necessary initiations in separation and are ready to attempt union from a more conscious place than was possible before. The unexpected is coming, arriving not according to your timeline or theirs, but according to the divine orchestration that governs all things when we surrender our need to control and trust the intelligence that moves through all of life. Are you ready to receive it, to meet what arrives with the full presence of your healed and sovereign self, to hold space for whatever unfolds next with grace and wisdom and unwavering commitment to your own truth?